Hello, everybody. In this presentation, we are going to talk about instructional strategies in bilingual educational settings. This is the overview of our presentation. The following instructional strategies are going to be briefly discussed, and samples of instructional materials are going to be given for some of them. Comprehensible input, scaffolding, modeling, strategies that increase the quality of output, student engagement, and checking for understanding. The first one, comprehensible input. The question is, how can we make content and language understandable and accessible to all students? In other words, how can we make content and language comprehensible by students? These are the methods, the ways, the techniques that can be used in order to promote comprehensibility of language input. So the first one is a visual support, and in other words, visuals, objects, realia, body language, gestures, videos, and total physical response are some of the ways that teacher can use in order to support the comprehensibility of the input. The second one refers to the context. Meaningful repeated exposures are given in a variety of contexts. So teachers are encouraged to support the context in order to make language comprehensible, language in this context comprehensible. By previewing material, by activating student background knowledge, by using graphic organizers, storytelling, songs, and chants. And finally, by adapting the language, students can understand better the input provided. So teachers can adapt the language by adapting the speech tempo, the speech complexity, by providing the ideas, by rephrasing the ideas, by articulating explicitly and clearly, by repeating the new language, by clarifying it through explanations, definitions, and finally by giving examples. The second very important strategy is scaffolding and providing language support. What a child is able to do through scaffolds is a stage where actual language acquisition occurs, and that is why scaffolding is very important in bilingual educational settings. Scaffolding is different from helping because scaffolding is a process of supporting students during the learning process, and by gradually removing that support as students become increasingly more independent, whereas helping means that the teacher actually, with the student, figure out together the answer to the questions. So it is important for the teachers to understand how they can provide scaffolding instead of just helping students. So there are three different types of scaffolding: verbal, instructional, and procedural. By verbal scaffolding, we refer to the modeling of the language use, by eliciting language with teacher feedback, and by providing supports for production. So all these three ways are verbal scaffolding, are three different types of verbal scaffolding. The second type of scaffolding is the instructional one, and this usually includes the use of graphic organizers for pre-reading purposes, during reading, and for pre-writing, but also in order to provide visual support for class discussions. This is an example of a graphic organizer. There are various types of different graphic organizers, but Frayer model is a very popular graphic organizer because it provides the opportunity to the students to understand, let's say, the vocabulary by contributing as much knowledge as they have. So the teacher, for example, gives a word in the middle. Let's say the word can be something very simple. if the students are very young or very low level, they have very low level of proficiency, or it can be part of the academic language that students are required to learn. Students will be required to give the definition of the word, characteristics, features of the particular lexical items, examples of the particular lexical item, and non-examples. If students are younger and if their level of proficiency is lower, they may not be able to provide a definition. In that case, they can draw the lexical item, provide characteristics in their own ways by drawing them perhaps, and then by providing examples and non-examples. So Frayer model allows students to contribute to the level they can contribute. And it is an excellent way for students to boost their memorization. So it can act as a mnemonic device as well. And of course, it helps them, it helps teachers to scaffold understanding and memorization of the new language. The third kind of scaffolding is called procedural scaffolding, and it actually refers to one-on-one teaching. It may be in small group, it may be in pairs, and it may also refer to modeling, where the students will be required to follow the modeling of the teacher. Speaking of modeling, modeling can also be the third major strategy that teachers can use in a bilingual educational setting. In this case, we do not refer to the modeling as a strategy, but we refer to the modeling cycle. This cycle actually includes 4 steps. So what is a modeling cycle? It is the way a teacher shows students what they should know and be able to do, but she does that by following a certain process, a certain procedure, which includes 4 steps. Let us have a look at it. This is the full modeling cycle, which includes 4 steps. In the first step, the teacher models the new language. Only the teacher. The second step includes the teacher and the student who will model together the new language. The third step is the student includes a student and another student who together will model the new language. And finally, the last step, the last stage of this modeling cycle requires all students to say, to repeat, to model the new language. So I do refers to the teacher, we do refers to the teacher and the student, you do refers to 2 students, and you all do refers to the whole class. The fourth strategy, instructional strategy, that we encourage teachers to use in bilingual educational settings includes 4 different techniques. The first one is the explicit instruction of vocabulary in context. The second one is the thematic function walls. The third one is the word banks. And the fourth is the sentence frames and sentence stems. All these 4 techniques make up the strategies that increase the quality of language production. In other words, all these techniques, all these sub-strategies, if we can call them like that, aim to help students increase the language production and improve the quality of their language production. So the explicit instruction of vocabulary in context is self-understood, is self-defined. The thematic function and the word banks looks like that. So the teacher provides a theme or a picture on the wall, and students are required to describe it. Here we have the example of a figure which students have to describe physically, but also they have to provide adjectives relating to his or her feelings, to her personality and character. So The theme here is describing a character, and the students have to provide various adjectives, several adjectives referring to different kinds of description. Physical description, character description, feelings description. Another similar example is a word wall. So a wall with words, and these words can be ranked and categorized alphabetically. Look at picture 1. Picture 2 includes a different kind of categorization. Here is a wall with words in different colors. Each color represents a different part of speech. So the red ones may be nouns, the blue ones may be adjectives, the yellow ones may be verbs, depending on what the teacher chooses to do. And of course, the word walls may contain words categorized in different ways. It all depends on the creativity of the teacher and on the target of the lesson. The sentence frames and the sentence stems, we have talked about them in previous presentations. These sentence frames include the beginning and the end of the sentence, more or less. Here we have a sentence frame for description. The second example is a sentence frame for opinion giving. The third example is sentence frames for carrying out comparisons and contrasts. What is the aim of them? The aim is to allow students to improve the quality of their language output, of their language production. And how does this happen? By giving them the sentence and asking them to focus, to emphasize only on a part of the sentence, which is actually the language that they are required to learn and produce. So the main character in the story is Tom, because he proved to be the protagonist by doing that. So sentence frames can be put on the wall and stay there for as long as students need them, because actually they help them become both fluent and accurate. And the same happens with the sentence stems. The only difference being that sentence stems give only the beginning of the sentence, and students have to provide the rest of it, the rest of the sentence. So in that sense, they may be considered to be a bit more challenging, more demanding cognitively and linguistically. And it is up to the teacher to decide whether they will use sentence stems or sentence frames, depending on what they want to do. The fifth instructional strategy for bilingual educational settings is the student engagement. In other words, these strategies that ensure that all students are cognitively engaged all the time in class. And in order to do that, in order to ensure that, teachers have to provide to the students opportunities to respond, OTRs. How can we do that? How we can provide opportunities to respond? These opportunities may be cognitive, may be visual, may be physical, may be oral. The cognitive engagement, the cognitive opportunity to respond, or the opportunity to respond cognitively, is the think time. So we tell students, okay, you have 2 minutes to think about it. Okay, this is a cognitive, this engages students cognitively. And then they can respond visually. So this is an opportunity for them to be engaged visually. Signal with your hands what your answer is, or raise your whiteboard with a sentence written or with your answer written on the whiteboard, or use your clickers and response cards, or use your thumbs up and down to tell me if you agree with what I've said or not. This engages students visually. Physical engagement engages students physically by using TPR, by asking them to move to the answer. If, for example, the answer is yes, go to the right side of the classroom. If the answer is no, move to the right side of the classroom, and so on and so forth. And the same happens with the four corners of the classroom and the opinion lines. The oral engagement involves students in choral responses, or turn and talk to your partner, to your neighbor, think, pair, share. Think what your answer is, pair with your partner, and share with the rest of the class. Small group discussion, discuss your answer, your thoughts, your ideas in small groups. Blow it away, shout it out, or paraphrase it to your partner. So these are techniques that ensure that students are cognitively, visually, physically, and orally engaged in class. And the last strategy that we are going to suggest is the checking for understanding. These are strategies that are used to elicit evidence that the student is understanding the language and content. And these strategies, these techniques that check for understanding, we are going to have a look at them in a while. We use them because we want to monitor student progress, but also because we want to get feedback from the students. And on the basis of this feedback, we are going to inform our further instruction. So, no surprises. These are exactly the strategies, the same strategies as the ones that we use in order to engage students in class. So the same strategies can be used in order to check understanding. And as you can see, these are cognitive, visual, physical, and oral techniques that an instructor can use in his or her class in order to check student understanding. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to learn more, please visit our website. Thank you.